everyone. Welcome to Resistance Live for the 11th of April, 2025. It has been a crazy 18 hours. I hope you all are following the minute-by-minute saga of what's happening concerning the illegal removal of Kilmar Garcia from the United States. We had a Supreme Court ruling last night that I think shocked even those of us who try to walk on the glass half full kind of side of things. So we're going to talk about that. We have ongoing breaking developments out of the district courtroom where that case was remanded by the Supreme Court last night, and way more to talk about. It's crazy, and it's Friday, which you all know means that like it's going to be chaotic all day long, unfortunately. Okay, so for first things first, for our visually challenged viewers today, I am wearing a white T-shirt with a I don't know, brown zip up cardigan sweater over top. My hair is down. I'm a pink skin, green eyed, dirty blonde haired woman. And I'm in front of my bookshelf and my yellow utility cart as always. One of our visually challenged audience members took a moment this morning to thank me directly in one of our classroom spaces for doing this every day. I know some of you occasionally comment, you should just start. I don't understand why it takes so long. It takes so long because that's what inclusion looks like, my friends. So here we are, and I'm coming to you as always from occupied Muncie, Lenape, and Mohegan land. Okay, so here's what happened last night at like 6 o'clock-ish, right before 6 o'clock. The Supreme Court, which had been considering an emergency petition from the Trump administration to stop the order from Judge Xinis in the lower court to immediately return Kilmar Garcia to the United States. In that case, the Supreme Court unanimously, let me repeat it again because I'm more shocked about this than anyone, unanimously ruled that the United States government has to facilitate and effectuate the return of Mr. Garcia. Now, there's been a lot of dispute about the terms facilitate and effectuate, so I'm going to get to that in a minute. But it was a unanimous decision, and there were concurring opinions from the liberal justices about exactly what kind of due process was owed here. And the additional fallout from this opinion is very significant, very significant. All right, so let's go through it for a second. So blue sky immediately erupted as soon as this ruling came down about the fact that the Supreme Court said that the Trump administration has to facilitate the return of Mr. Garcia. So let me just make something really clear about this. That language was not invented out of nowhere. And this has been driving me crazy this morning because there are people out there going, wishy-washy language, Judge Roberts left lots of room, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Okay, so let me just say something about this because I want everybody to really understand it. All the Supreme Court was doing when it used that word was quoting Judge Xinis's lower court order, okay? They were not creating room for the Trump administration to evade. They were not choosing wishy-washy language to make it easier for the Trump administration to not return him. No, they were literally just quoting the district court's order, word for word, okay? So all this nonsense about like facilitate, effectuate, blah, like literally is coming out of nowhere. Now, there is a fine line here that we have talked about quite a bit on this broadcast for the last week and a half. And it is this, okay? The Supreme Court and any court inside the United States does not have jurisdiction over El Salvador. We've talked about this a lot, but we know that this administration is paying El Salvador to house these people, 90% of whom have never been accused of a crime, and that they have sent planes there with like Kristi Noem on them to film TikTok videos, and she's been let into the prison, okay? There's nothing about this that is difficult. Literally, the Trump administration can say, we're sending a plane, get him ready, let's put him on the plane. We're coming to get him. It's that easy, okay? And I'm going to tell you something else. Judge Xinis this morning is really, really not happy with Trump's Department of Justice. So let me explain to you the next steps that have taken place since, okay? Late last night, as soon as she got the remand, Judge Xinis updated her original order, saying that there was like no debate any longer, that he was illegally removed, that he was here on protected status, that they had no basis to pick him up, and that his detention and removal was per se illegal. No question about it, okay? Then she issued a new order, and the new order said, You, Trump's DOJ, have until 9:30 a.m. today to tell me what steps you have taken and what steps you plan to take to get him returned to the United States as soon as possible. 9:16 a.m. rolls around and Trump's DOJ files a motion. And the motion they file is to delay responding to the court's order until next Tuesday, with a hearing next Wednesday, when the judge had already said, hearing 1 p.m. today in my courtroom. That did not go over well with Judge Xinis, who about 45 minutes later issued an order of her own denying the request to move the hearing to Tuesday and saying you have until 11:30 a.m. to respond, and the 1 p.m. hearing stands because your response to this, when the Supreme Court has told you that it was absolutely and wholly illegal for him to ever have been removed in the first place, quote unquote, blinks at reality. I'm just going to say something. If a judge ever says to you that something you have done as a lawyer in their courtroom blinks at reality, you should probably be shaking in your boots. Lo and behold, 11:30 has come and gone, and there is no filing on the docket, at least not as of the moment that I logged in here, from Trump's Department of Justice. The 1 o'clock hearing is still scheduled. I will tell you that even though there are no television courts, no televisions allowed in federal courts, and no audio recordings allowed in district courts, this hearing is going to be absolutely blazingly hot. And I am sure that there are going to be reporters live streaming from the courtroom about what's going on inside of it. Not literally live streaming, because that would be illegal, but, posting on Blue Sky and elsewhere about what's happening inside the courtroom. Because this judge, after all of this, now has the Department of Justice directly defying her order to update the court on what they are doing to bring him home. So I'm going to remind you all, because we have talked about this quite a bit here, okay? This judge is not without recourse. And I have to say, I'm really bothered and frankly, like a little pissed off this morning by all the people in the, even in this audience. I'm not pissed off at you guys, but some of you have said this, who are like, nothing's going to happen, right? Please remember that this judge has the facility to hold Trump's DOJ lawyers in contempt of court. I'm going to remind you all also that two of Trump's DOJ lawyers were already placed on administrative leave for answering this judge honestly that they knew that Kilmar Garcia had been removed illegally from the United States. So she is not going to be in a good mood when she faces them down. And she has the ability, for instance, we'll see whether or not it happens, to put these lawyers in jail overnight or for as long as 6 months under the contempt statute. So this is a real kind of breaking point of sorts. And we're going to see what happens. But I'm going to tell you, she is not playing. And, one of the things that I have to say about the way in which these things are interpreted is that I get really bothered, like judges have no backbone stuff. Just because you don't understand what backbone looks like in a judge doesn't mean that they don't have them. And also, I will tell you that in my 15 years practicing in federal court, because I was pretty much exclusively in federal court that time, I have never seen an order like the one that Judge Xinis issued this morning at 10:45 a.m. Blazingly hot, really angry. So again, we're going to see what happens, okay? Nobody knows. But I'm going to tell you, the fact that they have directly defied her order and have not filed an update and have literally stepped out on this, not to mention that Stephen Miller last night said, we don't have to follow this order. Federal courts don't have jurisdiction over El Salvador. That the order is not against El Salvador. The order is against the administration. So it's a world of hot water right now for the Trump administration. And the question is how far Judge Xinis is willing to go to assure compliance with her order. Now, let me say one other thing here in the context of what the Supreme Court did last night. Many of you will remember that Judge Boasberg, the chief judge of the District Court for the District of Columbia, has several Trump-related cases in front of him right now. One of them is the case where, as the plane that was flying Kilmar Garcia to El Salvador was in the air, he ordered the Trump administration to turn around the planes, and they did not. Now that we have a ruling from the Supreme Court, again, let me say it, unanimously holding that Kilmar Garcia was denied due process and there was no legal basis to remove him from the country, Judge Boasberg has some cover to order this administration to return all the men that were sent to the El Salvador prison so that they can have due process concerning whether or not they were legally removed. Whether or not Judge Boasberg does that is a huge question, but I will tell you, he has been equally upset as Judge Xinis with the actions of the Trump DOJ in his courtroom. And he is currently considering whether or not an order to show cause, which could hold the Trump administration in contempt, is going to end in tears, so to speak. So this particular order from the Supreme Court goes beyond this particular case. It has larger implications for everything having to do with the way in which people were deported without any opportunity to plead their case to a judge, without any opportunity to show that there was no basis for their removal, without any opportunity to even claim that they were here lawfully. And I will tell you that I think on that basis alone, there is a reason for hope. I am really fed up right now with the naysayers. Okay, I know this is a really difficult moment, but I got to tell you, you need to take the win. I am very disappointed even in like my fellow commentators who are like, this is a toothless order. No, it's not. Like, we have yet to see whether or not it's got really ferocious teeth or just a few teeth, but it's not toothless. And so one of the things I just want to remind everybody here is that it's critically important that when people do the right thing, we're happy about it, right? We get loud about it. We make a point of announcing that the right thing has arrived. I'm going to tell you all right now, not in my wildest dreams did I ever think that Justice Thomas and Justice Alito would cross the Trump administration. They did it last night. So that, by the way, should also be an indicator of how serious this situation has become, how foundational the issue of due process is to the United States rule of law. And for everybody who's like, meh, like effectuate, facilitate, I'm sorry. I am going to take this win. I trust Judge Xinis, especially in the means by which she has been conducting herself since this order came down, to handle this to the fullest extent of the law. And I think that the fallout from the Supreme Court's decision has the potential to completely decimate the Trump administration's current policy on deportation. So buckle up. We don't know how this is all going to play out yet, but today's a good day. And I am not going to deny the win. And I'm not going to fall prey to that like cynicism and bitterness that is like, all of this is meaningless. It's not. This is not meaningless. This is a very big deal. Okay, so we have to talk about a couple of other things that happened yesterday on the same or similar fronts that are really significant. So yesterday in Boston, a federal court judge extended his prior order against what's called third-party country deportations. So this is a TRO that was initially in place. It was entered a couple of weeks ago. And what it does is it stops the administration from deporting people to any country other than their country of origin. So this ends El Salvador flights, for instance, to concentration camps, unless the person that is being deported is an El Salvadoran national. All right. Again, very big deal. You will remember that the vast majority of the Venezuelans who were on those flights that went to El Salvador thought they were going home. Some of them had pregnant wives who were waiting for them in Venezuela, and they were sent to El Salvador instead. So we have yet another federal judge taking all of this very seriously, preventing the Trump administration from sending flights to El Salvador with anybody except an El Salvadoran national on it. And that, by the way, is one reason why we have not seen more flights that have gone from the United States to this concentration camp since the initial flights where they defied Judge Boasberg. All right. And by the way, Judge Boasberg's order is still hanging out there. Again, preventing any flights at this moment. So this is two federal court judges now who have taken the same action, including the one in Boston that has now stopped this in its tracks. Okay. We do have to talk about still more really important actions by the administration, however, with regard to immigrants. So yesterday we learned that under the auspices of DOGE, the Social Security Administration has moved 6,300 immigrants to what's called the dead list. Okay, that is a list of people that the Social Security Administration believes are deceased. By doing that, knowing that these folks are not actually dead, they have eliminated the ability of those people to use their Social Security numbers. Now, I'm going to remind everybody, Immigrants to this country, undocumented immigrants, people who are here on legal status, pay into Social Security even though they never get it back. They pay for other things like taxes, even though they are without the same kinds of representation, unless they're here as permanent green card holders, that the rest of us have, okay? What this does is it prevents those 6,300 people from having a bank account, from getting a credit card, from having the means to hold employment, and it is an intentional dissociation of folks who are here to work from their capacity to pay into the federal government. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, I thought DOGE was supposed to be increasing government efficiency and eliminating waste and fraud, you may be wondering how stopping 6,300 people from paying into Social Security accomplishes that aim. It doesn't. It doesn't. And this is on top of the fact that we now know that there are thousands of immigrant student visas that have been canceled this week, including one young man who had his visa canceled in California last night, who literally was ordered to leave the country for Kuwait yesterday with no warning. Somebody on Blue Sky this morning described this as ethnic cleansing by deportation. And I think it's about time we actually started talking about that, okay? That this is not just about deporting illegal immigrants, because no human being is illegal. What they're actually engaging in is ethnic cleansing. Because they're not deporting white people, right? They're not deporting like European immigrants, unless they happen to be people of color. Yesterday, Elon Musk, or maybe the day before, gave an interview where he was like, we should have completely free travel between Europe and the United States. That's because they're fine with white people. They just don't want black, brown, indigenous, other folks who are non-white present in the United States. We need to start seeding this language into the conversation about immigration. What is happening in this country is ethnic cleansing by alternative means. And the sooner that we start talking about it that way, the clearer it becomes. Because what's happening, and we all know this in this audience, but I want to empower you with the language to talk about it, are direct violations of conventions on human rights. One of the definitions of genocide is forcible relocation of populations. What is happening in this country is that people are being forcibly relocated either through the denial of immigration status or by active deportation. It's ethnic cleansing. That's what it is. And it's only directed at certain countries and people from those countries. It's not directed at everyone. It is really time that we started talking about it in those terms. So this is yet another effort by Stephen Miller and his evil clan in conjunction with DOGE to end the legal status of people who are here, to end the ability of undocumented people to work their way into the fabric of American society, as has always been the case. And so the more that we talk about this, the more people are going to be aware of exactly what this is and what it looks like. People need to have an understanding of it that is not about the language and the propaganda that is coming out of the administration and through Fox News and other places. Okay, this morning, China raised tariffs against the United States to 125%. Many of you saw that the markets plummeted again yesterday at the close because the trade war isn't over, notwithstanding what Trump tried to do when he started to get really worried that he was about to suffer a massive malignant injury, narcissist injury, because of his absolutely haphazard international policy on trade. I join many other people who have pointed out this morning that it feels like China was kind of waiting for this, that they're actually taking advantage of exactly what Trump has done, the instability of the US, the dollar, the value of the dollar is plummeting this morning. Bond yields are way up. There was some new polling this morning showing that consumer confidence is at a 48-year low right now, and there's an enormous growing expectation of inflation. 50% of the US is expecting higher inflation in the coming months. The only way that this changes is by vocal objection. And so again, I have to remind you all that making your phone calls daily to your representative, to your senators, to express concern about what's happening. You do not have to do it from a partisan standpoint. You can ask when they intend to rein him in because you're worried about however this impacts you personally. Those phone calls are mandatory. Because the more pressure is put on this administration, the more likely it is that things will change, all right? I'm going to tell you, just because Trump likes to be the guy who creates problems and then solves them, I would not be surprised to hear about a beautiful phone call with China where suddenly all the tariffs are eliminated. But until that moment comes, we have to continue levying the pressure. Absolutely mandatory. And, I will just say this as well. It's really time to also get very, very loud about immigration policy. Yesterday, ICE sent plainclothes officers into elementary schools in Los Angeles to interview grade schoolers, children, and lied to the school administrators about the fact that the parents had given them permission when they had not. And that's on top of smashing a mother's car window and dragging her out of her car after she'd been in this country, she's 55 years old, in front of her children, right? These kinds of things really show us what the immigration policy is about, okay? It's not about preserving America. It's not about jobs. It's about racism and xenophobia and ethnic cleansing. And it's about time we really started using that language. Okay. I'm out for the next week. I do have some good news, though. I think you're going to hear from me anyway, not through a live broadcast, but as I've been signaling for the last couple of weeks, we have some additional videos coming here, like educational videos on how to organize, some videos on how to deal with talking to Trumpers. We have a few other things that are coming, and there is a strong possibility that you will be getting at least one, if not two, pre-recorded videos from me next week. I'm going to have more to say about this when I return, but I will not be here live for the next 9 days. So I will see you a week from Monday live. I am going to do my very best to check out of social media for at least the first 4 or 5 days of this. I always say I'm going to do that. I'm not always successful, but I'm really trying this time because I really want to get some quality time with my kids and I really need a break. And I'm always kind of trying to get you guys a break and encouraging you to do that. So I want to walk my talk. I will nonetheless, be paying attention to what's going on. And if there is a need for an emergency broadcast, which would have to be something very serious, I will find a way to talk to all of you live. All right. But in between now and then, I'm going to do my best to check out and refresh. So stay tuned because obviously as soon as we put a standalone training video up here, I will make sure to blast it out on Blue Sky. And if you want to get a notification when it arrives, you should hit that bell notification right down here because that will send you a notification on YouTube whenever anything goes live on this channel. All right. So don't forget to subscribe. Please drop me a comment if you're watching on the replay. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. I wish you all a wonderful week. I hope you all get in some R&R yourselves. Please do your best. Take care of your mental health, your physical health during this time. And I'll catch you guys all soon. All right. Lots of love, everyone. Thanks for your support. And I will see you back here in a little over a week. All right. Bye.